Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper here. I should like to talk to you about lessons that I think we might have learned from discourse with Azrienoch and company. Let me name, just to blow the crow of epistemology, Azrienoch. We've got Randy Heltzerman, the Caruth's Scientific Discussion, Zorio, Bedtime with a Lunatic, aka Do Spook, Meridian Frost, and I'm sure that you've got a couple that you could put on there. Angry Anthropologist, I'll add, and there are quite a few others, have something in common. First of all, it's not worth replying to them because they aren't in a conversation of rationality. They are in a conversation of deluded, you fill in the blank. And it's almost worthless to try to say that we're going to get anything out of a dialogue with them. Is that correct? Now, I would like to mention a few people who are incorrect, some of them thoroughly incorrect, but they have intellectual discourse methods which are correct in form, although the conclusions they draw are not correct for several reasons. For the most part, these people are correct in form compared to the ones I've just mentioned. Bwahar, B-W-H-A-H-R-H-R, his name is Matthias. I don't know about any of his other videos, but he specifically did a video where he put his jacket on and sat in front of his books and addressed my video, Ethics as Science, Ethics and Morality as Scientific. And in that video, his methods are correct. That is the correct method to actually give an argument that can be answered. I-N-M-E-N-D-H-A-M, in Mendham, Veritas 48, and this and Matthias were all replying to Ethics as Scientific. These gentlemen also have a correct method, if incorrect conclusions. And Scientific Discussion, Azrienoch, Zorio and company could learn from these gentlemen's methods. Not their conclusions necessarily, but their methods. Some of their conclusions too, not being accepted. Now, my recent favorite find is Jericomovie. He's the well-spoken Aristotelian. I don't know if he's even read anything of Aristotle. I'm certain he's read something of Aristotle. But he's the well-spoken Aristotelian. I say Aristotelian because his epistemological method is Aristotelian. His metaphysical outlook is Aristotelian, and I took him to be an objectivist. I asked him if he was an objectivist, and he replied, if by objectivism you mean something that puts the essence of a thing before the thing itself, then no, I'm not. And, you know, something very unapplicable, something very academic, something very, floating academia. So we're going to be addressing that soon. He's one of my most recent favorite finds, though. Go check him out. He's only got 114 subscriptions compared to these other, Azrienoch has 7,500, and doesn't make any sense in any video he's ever done. Except maybe Atheist Paradise. I'll give him 2 points. Now watch Jericomovie's reply to Azrienoch's To the Realists. To the Realists. That's Azrienoch's video. And Jericomovie does a reply that's good, give you a first taste of it. But yet to discover objectivism, is that true? Well, Jericomovie, let's have a discourse on objectivism coming up. But let's talk just a second about what we can learn from what we've said to Azrienoch and what Azrienoch and company have said to us. The idea, the contention that we can't learn anything from them because it's nonsense and babbling, and we might as well go have a conversation with someone like Spike Bravo, Veritas, in Mendham, someone who's at least putting an idea on the table we can talk to and refute. And I think that we learn this much out of it. Matthias, or Bwahar, says in his video as a reply to mine, he says that he takes Azrienoch and Meridian Frost and company to be archetypical intellectuals, to be intellectuals of the obvious sort. If anybody's an intellectual, Azrienoch's got to be an intellectual. Who else could be called intellectual? Azrienoch, of course, and then who else? That's his interpretation of it. That is exactly why I put the effort to reply to Azrienoch and company when I do, to expose the fact that they don't have anything underneath it. They are naked. They are out in the open for everyone to see if you just take their sentences and go down sentence by sentence. Now, all that they have, all of their credibility is resting on the fact that people have not read the authors and stopped and thought about and discussed the ideas of the authors that these people bring up as the current or the new way of thinking. So if everyone were to read the nonsense postmodernists and have a discussion about it, which they wouldn't, everyone would fall asleep, and that would be a danger to society to have so many people asleep. So we couldn't study postmodernism in earnest. But what we can do is point out, whenever we have the chance, that they are babbling. Babble, babble, babble. Look at the people on the Charlie Rose panel of postmodern architects. Babbling nonsense. Pretentious, posturing, sophistry. Nonsense. And it is not the case that you have to go read whatever authors so that you can get up to date on this and then you'll be able to figure out what they're saying. You cannot figure out what they're saying. They don't know what they're saying. That's the point that we learned from Azrienoch and company. It is not so profound and so far beyond us and they're so learned. Wrong. It is nonsense. You as an individual human being, every individual watching this, you have to judge for yourself on your own mind, on your own rational basis, what makes sense and what doesn't. And you cannot simply pass somebody as an intellectual and say, well, he's learned and philosophical. I know he's learned and philosophical because I don't understand anything he says. That's every single person that says Azrienoch makes any sense at all is saying that because they don't understand them. They don't have no clue what Azrienoch really means. But they say if they, let's see, I can't say Azrienoch is stupid because my God, how would I defend that? For all I know, he may be correct, and everyone else is saying he's correct. So I'm going to jump on the bandwagon and say Azrienoch is correct. And that's it. That's the whole secret behind their thing. How is that dangerous? Well, you can take someone like Veritas or Bohar, or Spike Bravo, Jericomovie, have a public debate with them, expose their ideas, and maybe even convert that person. But what about an opponent who's trying to gain power, as the postmodernists are trying to do? What about an opponent who won't argue with you, who has no arguments, who believes that arguments are old-fashioned? What the hell kind of an opponent is that? And that's what Azrienoch and company are. That is the opponent we face in people who don't give arguments because they don't believe arguments are necessary. Do you know what people resort to when they don't use arguments? Anyone familiar with Ayn Rand knows that if you don't use arguments, you resort to physical force. Now, Azrienoch's just running around comfortably and cushy inside of America's bubble of prosperity and freedom. But what if they take power? Are there places outside of America where postmodernists have taken power? There are. Marxist postmodernists have taken power in the Middle East. So it's not a funny situation, and Azrienoch is the front man. He doesn't know who he's playing for, but he's the front man for a way of thinking that a lot of people have worked centuries to put behind us. The idea that you have to say something that makes sense, defend it, and capitulate to the other side if you can't defend it, and they prove you wrong. They are dismissing that as old-fashioned, going back to the way, way, way primitive times before logic was even laid out for us. And you know, logic was formulated on the basis of the mathematics known at the time. So logic is as logical as mathematics, except for the new logic. Anything done in the 20th century, I don't know, just studying pre-20th century logic until you're up to speed enough to judge things in the 20th century arena of theory. Non-Euclidean geometry and nonsense like that.